Hello everybody, and welcome to Theatrical Thursday. If you find Elmo, tell him. Say I think you ought to go after Shed. Find Kingpin and those guys and bring them back. Check on Darling and Bullock while you're at it. He looked like a man condemned, but did not protest. He had several screw-ups to his credit. Being separated from his comrades was a cheap penalty to pay. Right, he said, and hustled off. I returned to the task at hand. Disorganization resolved itself as the troops formed the locals into work crews. The earth was flying. First a good deep trench so the creatures from the castle would have trouble getting out. Then a palisade beyond that. One of the taken remained airborne, circling high above watching the castle. Wagons began coming up from the city carrying timber and rubble. Down there, other work crews were demolishing buildings for materials. Though they were structures unfit for occupation and long overdue for replacement, they housed people who were not going to love us for destroying their homes. One Eye and a sergeant named Shaky took a large labor draft around the castle, down to the roughest slope, and began a mine designed to drop part of the castle wall down the steep slope. They did nothing to conceal their purpose. Wasn't much point trying. The things we faced had the power to knife through any subterfuge. Actually manage to breach the wall would be a tough job. It might take weeks, even with One Eye helping. The miners would have to cut through many yards of solid rock. The project was one of several feints the lieutenant would employ, though the way he plans a siege, one day's feint might become another main thrust. Drawing on a manpower like Juniper, he could exercise every option. I felt a certain pride watching the siege take shape. I have been with the company a long time. Never had we undertaken so ambitious a project. Never had we been given the witherall. I wandered around till I found the lieutenant. What's the plan here anyway? Nobody ever tells me anything. Just nail them down so they can't get out. Then the taken will jump all over them. I grunted. Basic and simple. I expected it would get much more complicated. The creatures inside would fight. I suspect the Dominator was lying restless, shaping a counterstroke. Must be terrible to be buried alive, unable to do nothing but wish and hope at minions far beyond direct control. Such impotence would destroy me in a matter of hours. I told the lieutenant about Shed's escape. He didn't get excited. Shed meant little to him. He did not know about Raven and Darling. To him, Raven was a deserter and Darling his camp follower. Nothing special. I wanted him to know about Shed so he could mention it to the captain. The captain might want to take action more vigorous than my recommendation to Elmo. I stayed with the lieutenant a while. He watched the work crews. I watched a wagon train come uphill. This one would be bringing supper. Getting tired of these cold meals, I muttered. Tell you what you ought to do, Croaker. You ought to get married and settle down. Sure, I replied, more sarcastically than I felt. Right after you. No, really, this might be the place to do it. Set yourself up in practice, catering to the rich, the Duke's family, say. Then, when your girlfriend gets here, you pop the question and you're all set. Daggers of ice drove into my soul, twisting. I croaked, Girlfriend? He grinned. Sure. Nobody told you? She's coming out for the big show. Gonna run it personally. Might be your big chance. My big chance? For what? He was talking about the lady, of course. It had been years, but still they rode me about some romantic stories I wrote before I actually met the lady. They always write anybody about anything they know will get their goat. All part of the game. All part of the brotherhood. I bet you he'd been boiling with the news since he had first heard it, waiting to spring it on me. The lady. Coming to Juniper. I considered deserting for real, while there was still a ship or two left. Well, that wouldn't be a very good choice. They needed him, as they would soon find out. Either way, this week's installment was rather great. I hope you all enjoy. Until next week, enjoy books.